Hello, I will be talking about how public interest litigations evolved in India. And to begin with, we need to first understand that no legislation in our country provides for a definition to PIL. So it was started for those persons who could not approach to the court due to their marginalized positions in the country because of poverty or any other disability. So, in order to protect the interests of these poor people, that rather than going into the technicalities of procedure, when somebody's fundamental rights or human rights are violated, that then even a simple letter to the Supreme Court or a High Court could be accepted as a petition. And if the concerned court feels prima facie that some rights are being violated, the court can intervene and it can be registered as a writ petition under Article 32 when it violates fundamental rights, and they could go directly to Supreme Court in that case, and under Article 226 of the Constitution when there is a violation of other legal rights and fundamental rights to the High Courts. So, this petition can be taken up by either the aggrieved party or any public spirited individual, or it can also started by the court on suo motu. And the parties who will be respondents in this petition will be the state. That such kind of petitions are always taken up against the state authorities, the government, the central government, the municipalities. However, you can make a private party as respondents along with the state. And in PIL petitions, they have even done away with the requirement of locus standi, which is that generally when I approach to the court, I have to say that I am an aggrieved party and I have a right to be heard before the court. But however, in cases of PIL, this concept of locus standi was given a go by, and the courts could be giving directions to the state authorities that law should be followed and that rights of these petitioners are not violated. However, whether the petition under PIL will be allowed or not will depend on facts of each case. There is not any straitjacket formula which is provided for acceptance of PIL petitions. And the reason is that PIL is an extraordinary remedy, a remedy which these people could not have sought had strict technical procedures were followed and if the principle of locus standi were not relaxed. So, the main reason is that the nature of public injury is always more important than the person who brings the same to the notice of the court for correction. And the other reasons were provided by Justice Krishan Iyer in the case of Fertilizer Corporation Kambar Union. The reasons are also provided in the screen in the green highlighted color. And later in the 1970s, when these kind of petitions started to appear before the courts in India, in 1976, Justice Krishan Iyer talked about this concept in the case given, and he, without giving any terminology, talked why we need to relax locus standi when the remedy of social justice is to be shared by a number of people. In 1981, then Justice P.N. Bhagwati and Justice Krishan Iyer, they gave this specific term of PIL and they gave the expression of epistolary jurisdiction. It was when the concept started to gain momentum. Epistolary jurisdiction, we can say, is that the court started to act on the basis of letters which were written to the court on behalf of the oppressed parties. In 1982, in SP Gupta case, they provided new horizons to the concept of PIL and the reasons for the relaxation of locus standi. They said that relaxation of locus standi is also a representative standing, that petitioner be given standing as a representative of other people or people of a specific group. And the court said that Husainara Khatun was a very good example in this regard, and that it allowed third party to file habeas corpus when the injured party itself were in prisons and they could not go to the court. The reasons for this, as given by the court, was that personal liberty in itself is a matter of public concern, and the court need to take up petitions in this regard. Now, PIL petitions are generally classified into various categories in which they may be filed. These may be jail reforms, labor rights, child rights, police petitions, cases on environmental protection, atrocities against women, cases on violation of human dignity. Some of the cases and categories are provided on the screen, and this is how it empowers the public to promote judicial activism and allows the judiciary to exert its power of judicial review. Now, talking about this concept of PIL in America, where it started in the 1960s, first of all, PIL there is a very costly litigation and it is generally taken up by special attorneys of firm who take up such litigation to the court. And also, there is a special law in regard to PIL that is made. And this idea of public spirited individuals there means about the lawyer community who have a special social obligation also to help the marginalized section. This concept in America gained momentum after the movements of civil liberties and rights, and it is how it changed the way lawyers approach law. And now the lawyers not only wanted compensation for their clients, but they also wanted a change in the policy matter for uh, for their rights. So in America, it evolved through the lawyers' movement, where they saw that litigation is one of the tools of serving public interest as well. And the American doctrine of standing is based on two questions: that whether is there a injury that requires the judicial redress, and is the petitioner also uh, sufficiently motivated to bring a good case before the court. Because in America, only somebody who has personal injuries they can approach court. This idea is rejected by the Indian courts because we follow a very relaxed system of locus standi, which is also called as citizen standing in India, and we follow a very improvised concept of PIL than which is followed in America itself according to our needs, which we can say. Now, with PILs promoting judicial activism in the country, certain criticisms have also come up against these two concepts. It is being said that PIL have now become a very convenient remedy. That there are instances when PILs are being misused just to make it a great way to get famous or to stop certain activity or projects of the government or the state. But I will say that there have been instances when Supreme Court and High Courts have put in fact heavy penalty on those people who have been misusing this extraordinary remedy, and there are few restrictions in place also to when PIL shall not be filed when it is done with any political motive or any hidden agenda, and that no PIL will be filed when you already have alternate methods of getting justice from the court. And to say that we do not have PIL jurisprudence in India will also be wrong, because high courts have their own rules about what kind of matters to be accepted, who can file them, that what will be the credentials. But because sometimes court fail to follow those guidelines, we are getting these criticisms in hand. So the answer to such criticisms of PIL and about judicial activism provided on the screen, I will say, is the answer is judicial restraint, because we have a very thin line between activism and outreach. So it all depends on case to case whether it leads to outreach and not activism. Activism is good when the court is using their powers, for instance, under Article 32 or under 142 of the Constitution, and that it is not reaching to other articles of the Constitution which are not to be meant for the judiciary. So I will say that judicial restraint is the answer to such criticisms. And when we just weigh the pros and cons of PILs, I will say that the benefits, the advantages of PIL, they outweigh the disadvantages and criticisms as far as PIL system is concerned in our country. So that's all for today. Thank you.